Hello. This is the second of three videos intended to give advice for those considering mechanical engineering, those in a program already, and those who have already finished and are on their way out. So this video will be for those who are in a mechanical engineering program. And so in general, this advice would be geared towards them, although it could help others as well, in particular people who are yet to enter a mechanical engineering program. So the first thing is that if you have a bad GPA, you should consider being more involved in extracurricular engineering activities, as in the Society of Automotive Engineers, Design, Build, and Fly, or some other group or activity at your school. The reason I say this is that because I've known cases where people did not have high GPAs, yet because they were involved in these activities, knew people that could help them find a job, knew certain skills that they use, and they could point to actual experiences and work they've done to help produce something. In the case of DBF, help build uh, a plane for, or I should say, an RC plane for some competition, perhaps contribute to the CAD, contribute to the project management, something. They were able to point to their experience and then use that as a way to find a job later on, even without good GPAs. Another thing is that you should search for jobs that interest you and see what skills are needed and work towards those skills. So, as an example, um, we can check out, well, actually, before I move forward with that, here's the website of the Society of Automotive Engineers. This is one of various organizations that you can join, at least in the student local student groups at a school. So going back to the jobs, here's an example of a job, mechanical engineer at ACOM. See that it requires 5 years of experience in water, wastewater. It requires an EIT. Uh, they prefer a master's degree, but if you're a good engineer, I'm fairly sure they'll consider you. They also like someone with a PE if possible, and as you can see under preferred qualifications, they also like someone with experience in AutoCAD and Revit. So those are some of the things they're looking for. So you can be realistic about the kinds of things you need to start learning in your undergraduate education. Sometimes you will, I've never encountered mechanical engineers being exposed to Revit, but if if you find a way that you can get your hands on the software and start working with it, go ahead and use it. Another example is automation engineer with Raytheon. Here it requires a minimum of 2 years of professional experience in the industry, so you already have an idea of what you need to start working on when you graduate, get a job and start working and gain that experience. They also want experience with modeling and Pro E, SolidWorks, knowledge of mechanical design, so the the mechanics of mechanisms and how to form various designs to help produce a particular output, maybe linear motion, rotational motion. They want experience with PLCs, programmable logic controllers. Um, they also want someone with a DoD or the ability to obtain a DoD security clearance. And all these other examples, they want someone with some programming in C++, Arduino, which is a combination of it's a electronic prototyping board with microcontrollers. Want someone that knows how to use Linux, Java, Python, Linux being an operating system, and Java and Python being programming languages. So these are things you should be looking towards working on if you want a job like automation engineer at Raytheon. I mean, there's different things to consider. So you should look and start working on those things and be realistic of the kinds of things you can expect to do when you graduate. You shouldn't expect to be able to get a job as an automation engineer at Raytheon right upon graduation, unless you have a unique set of skills and experience that will just make you a desirable employee. But in general, I don't think that that is the case with the average undergraduate mechanical engineer. In continuing with the slide, um, become well acquainted with at least four professors. So you want these professors so that they can serve as professional references, but also if you choose to go to grad school, as professionals in academia that can write letters of recommendation for you when you apply to some schools. You will need, at least in most schools that require letters of recommendation, you'll probably need three. Sometimes some will request two for some master's programs, but in general, if you ever apply to a PhD, you're going to need like three letters of recommendation. And the stronger those letters of recommendation, the better it is for you. And I say four because sometimes there may be a professor who is not as eager to help, or maybe too slow to respond, or is not diligent even with the good amount of time given to be able to give those letters of recommendation. I can tell you from experience, you need to start contacting these people. I wouldn't say like a few weeks, I'd say more like months ahead of time when you need your letter of recommendation, because sometimes they get busy and a letter of recommendation is not on their priority list. If you're interested in grad school, get involved in research with a professor. Read the literature on some topics. So if you're interested in manufacturing, additive manufacturing, read up on that. Get involved in research with additive manufacturing. Do some of your own work. Mm, If you're interested in robotics, get involved in robotics. Read up on robotics, the things involved in robotics. So there are things you can do to help your career be moving towards a certain direction. Um, Again, this should be obvious, but have a resume and cover letter prepared. Sometimes you get busy during your school work, during the semester or during quarter, and an opportunity arises, an internship arises that you can apply to, but you're sort of constrained because your classwork, and you can't turn in the resume or cover letter in on time because you don't have time and you haven't begun working on it. So if you have something already prepared, you're more easily able to adjust it for whatever the needs may be. And whenever you write a resume, try to be specific in what job you're going after so you can make the resume a little more personal. I mean, I guess it's okay in some instances that just have a always turn in a general resume, but when you get your cover letter, you have to start getting more specific. Um, you should apply to at least one internship or some other opportunity per semester, per quarter, at the very least, so you can seek interviews for practice. If you can get interviews, that's great because you're at least one step ahead of those who haven't done anything. And these experiences will be valuable for you later on, because you'll see where you make mistakes. You'll see your inability to express yourself well, or even intelligently, or even in an informed manner. And it may not always be because you lack intelligence or you lack knowledge. It could just be that you get nervous and you just start forgetting what to say. But if you practice and you start having an idea what to say, so practice um, giving an introduction about yourself to someone. Say, just starting with your name, what your major is, and what your goals are, and in particularly geared towards uh, engineering type goals, so that you can express yourself to a recruiter well, and not be caught speechless in a certain situation. Think of questions they might ask. Think of questions to ask them, uh, so that they can see that you're actually interested in, or someone that will be actively involved in the work for which you're hired. But in general, apply to these things fairly frequently throughout the year, because you already want to start finding opportunities that can help you land a permanent position once you graduate. Another thing is consider military service, or ROTC. So I know for military service, you can get certain security clearances. I'm not sure how it works as ROTC. But the reason I mentioned this is because there are jobs that they want someone with a security clearance. At the very least, they want someone who can obtain a security clearance. And if you already have one, you'll be ahead of a lot of people. I missed out on a certain opportunity with one company because I didn't have a security clearance. And they responded to me that the only reason that they didn't go forward with my resume was because I didn't have a security clearance, and the job required having one, not the ability to get one, but having one already. And so if you can get this through your involvement with the military, you'll have a lot more opportunities than the rest of your fellow graduates later on. And for an example, Northrop Grumman. So this is actually for an internship with Northrop Grumman. Notice that they have a minimum GPA. You have to be a U.S. citizenship, and it gives you also the preferred qualifications. However, its preferred qualifications among them, and this is for an internship, is an active DoD secret or higher clearance. So these things can come in handy. And this is something that a lot of people are at times unaware of as undergraduates. Oh, and by the way, if you want to go into jobs dealing with the Department of Defense, or in this case, companies that serve and provide services to U.S. defense, you better keep your good behavior up, and that includes your online activity, whether that's the kinds of things you say on Twitter, social media in general, um, even downloads. Don't 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 be involved in illegal downloads, because the once I heard, I think it was an NSA recruiter talking about the kinds of things to expect in a certain type of clearance. I think among the questions they ask you is, if have you downloaded, have you done illegal downloads? And I can tell you that a lot of people in engineering, undergraduate engineering, they do. Where do you think a lot of people get MATLAB and SolidWorks or other engineering software? How do they get it for free? That's not free software. It's not open source software that you can freely download. So be careful about those kinds of things. Going back, consider taking a class in welding, machining, or something similar. These skills will help you in your courses, and I'm thinking in particular senior design kinds of things. But also, it'll help you land a job later on. Again, as I mentioned in my previous video, that I missed out on a entry-level manufacturing engineering job because I didn't have experience in manufacturing. Had I perhaps had some experience in machining, various welding processes, I probably would have had a better chance. And that was the reason I was told that they just didn't move forward um, they didn't move forward with in considering me because I just lacked that manufacturing experience. So again, even experience as an undergraduate, even if it's little, it can be helpful and it'll set you apart from other people. Uh, Take videos and pictures of work that you can present later. So have videos of you perhaps machining, welding, or doing something else. You'll have proof that you can point to, maybe even upload to YouTube and show your prospective employer of the work you're able to do. You don't just list it. You'll stand out from other people who also have it in their resume. Not only do you have it on your resume, you have a video that you can point to, say, look, you can trust that what I'm putting on my resume is true, and here's proof of me doing that work. Something like that. Uh, Try to keep, if you made a poster for something, keep a file on hand, keep pictures of those things on hand. It'll come in handy later on. Um, Also, visit your career center regularly and be informed of events. So try to go like once a month at least. It's not that uh, much of a hassle or takes much time. In my experience, you just go see what events are going to be held for. So go at the beginning of the month, see what activities will be held, so you know whether or not to attend some. Sometimes employers come to the career center, so they come basically to you, and instead of you having to go or drive somewhere, they'll come to your school and you can interview with them. That's how I obtained one of the jobs I had, and it was a good paying job. Probably I, uh, I would say that I ended up getting paid for that job way more than many people, even some people who've been already uh, in mechanical engineering for a few years. So don't underestimate some of those opportunities. And lastly, I might lose some people here, and I should have mentioned this as well in my previous video for those who are considering entering a mechanical engineering program, is that if you're not married, avoid committed relationships. Um, One reason is that some jobs require relocation. That includes internships. You may have an internship opportunity that requires you to go. You may live in LA and in California, and it may require you to go to Arizona or Texas or somewhere else. And if you're in a committed relationship, it makes things difficult because your significant other may not want you to go. They may have other plans, but you're missing out on an opportunity to do something that will help you in your long-term career. And you have to determine whether that relationship will actually last that long. And so that's something to consider. Uh, you you're in you putting a lot of time in that relationship, you're putting more weight in that relationship than your career, and that may be a good choice for you, but for some people it's a bad thing to do because you're just cutting off opportunities that can help you later on. And you and in particular, once you graduate, you will definitely be limited in your opportunities if you cannot relocate. If you cannot move to Texas or to some Midwestern state where you can start working with a good company and get a good paying job, your significant other may want you to stay in the local vicinity, and there may not be that many jobs nearby. And so you have to really consider whether it's worth being in a committed relationship. You know, that doesn't mean you can't social. I'm not saying don't socialize and have friends and have some recreational activity, but I would seriously advise in reconsidering the your level of commitment to certain relationships. And that's it for this video. And in the next video, I will be talking about things that those who have graduated can now do in their search for a job. Thanks for watching.